Hello and welcome to Skeindeer Knits. My name is Ellie and I am a Norwegian living and knitting in London. And you can follow me on Instagram. I am Skeindeer over there, and I am Skeindeer Knits as a designer on Ravelry. And don't forget to join my Ravelry group Skeindeer Knits, which is the best place to get in touch and get help with patterns and take part in Knitalongs and potential giveaways and that kind of thing. It's a really good place to be. Welcome to my podcast. First of all, I want to say a huge welcome to new viewers. Welcome to this weird little knitting talk show that I do here, where I usually talk about what I knit, so things I have going, things I have finished, things I have designed, and knit-alongs and such. But this will be a rather different one. So to returning viewers, hello and welcome back. I'm so glad you have returned, but you will notice that this is a little bit of a different one because I had not planned to record this week. I didn't really have time and I didn't really have that much interesting stuff to show, and I'm like, well, there's no point in pushing it. But then the light conditions today are beautiful. My neighborhood is for once quite quiet, although I will say the neighbor's dog did rear its ugly head out when I started putting up my lights and such to bark. So never say never, and probably jinxed it. But this episode is different because I'm going to talk about my works in progress. So I'm just going to very briefly cover the knit-alongs that I host, just to remind people that it's still not too late to join either of them. And then I'm going to go through everything that I have knitted, and it could potentially just be the episode where Ellie finds out that all of her projects have been eaten by moths. Anyway, I am running the year-long Knitalong, which is where we aim to make 6 pairs of colourwork mittens for the duration of 2018. It is coming to an end at the end of this month, i.e. at the end of the year. I'm also running the Selby Mitten Club, which is coming at an end at the end of January, so that you have time to knit up all the mittens, including the ones that just came out in December. I wasn't going to spend too much time on this, but I do realise just now that I actually never showed you the mittens on the podcast, because last episode came out just before the mittens were launched. So these are the last mittens to come out in the Selby Mitten Club. You will notice that the colour scheme and the sort of classic Selby mitten look with the stars, i.e. the Selby rose, does have some reminiscence to Evia that came out in the beginning of the club, which is kind of the idea. I like that we would come full circle, both in terms of the aesthetics and the colour scheme and the name, because these are called Evia. Evia is just kind of another way of saying Evia. I'm not a language expert, but they are both kind of same word, different pronunciations, different point in time, and I kind of like that we're going full circle with that. So this is how they look. As ever, they have the continuing palm into the back of the thumb trick that I always put in my patterns, because I think it's a very neat little detail that hopefully explain why you can't just knit in the scrap thread. You need to really put stitches on the scrap thread and cast on above. I've gone over that before, just thought I'd put in that reminder. I've used Always Etc. yarn for this. This is her fingering weight Shetland yarn, and it's the loveliest yarn. I mean, really, this is a proper favourite of mine. There's something about the surface that it leaves that is so smooth. Actually, the mittens looked blocked before they had been blocked. I don't know what it is about this yarn, but it's magical and I love it, and it's soft, and I'm a fan. Thank you so much, Saskia, for sending me this yarn so that I would maybe design mittens with it, and I decided that they fit beautifully into the final pair of mittens in the Selby Mitten Club, which are the tightest knit mittens in the club. So we started with a very big needle loose knit kind of iron to chunky weight yarn, and we've gone down to that, to kind of worsted DK, to more of a sport fingering, to full on fingering, like 30 something stitches per 10 centimeters. So you can take part in that journey if you will. And of course, if you've never taken part in this club and you're wondering if it's too late, it is never too late. Whenever you buy the club, you will get what everyone's been receiving up until this point. And now that everything's come out, you will then receive everything right and in one go. So it's never really too late. It's just that if you join earlier, you will kind of be part of the anticipation and the mystery. That's really the major difference. Lastly, I am running the Julenat Mystery Knit-along. The mystery is ending in a couple of days. The last clue is coming out on the 7th. There has been some discussion in my Ravelry group as to why people did not receive their kits that was sent by lovely Susan Crawford, and it turns out it was Royal Mail that really messed things up. We do take some you know, criticism for launching things very close, both the clue releases and the kits, but the reason some have not received them is because Royal Mail messed up. And I think all those people have been contacted. I just thought I'd mention it here just in case you haven't. But Susan is lovely and is sending out replacements. So for those of you lagging behind for whatever reason, myself included, we'll be knitting it together in the after cal, which is really just the same cal. The knit along was always planned to go on until the end of the year, to all the way the end of December. So I'll be knitting along with you until then anyway. I haven't really cast on since the first mitten that I knitted for preparation of the pattern, and I really want to knit 2 full pairs, and I want to do some alterations to the first, so essentially I haven't gotten any pairs right now. So we'll be knitting them together, and Dana Walla, who's my lovely forum group moderator, she's already on it. Honestly, I feel so lucky that she's agreed to be moderator in my group. It's like, how lucky am I? By the way, have you seen her new Hogwarts mittens? I don't know, they're not officially called Hogwarts mittens, but they certainly have a bit of a nudge to that, with 1 mitten designed for each house. I love them. Check them out. They're amazing. I knew they were coming. We've been in talks and I've been like cheering her on. I've been very excited. And yeah, she just launched them and they're fabulous. But that is enough of the usual podcast talk. You can see I'm having a hard time getting out of that habit, because this was supposed to be a different one, and the different stuff starts now, because I'm gonna go through all my works in progress, which we all know is a pretty high number. So let's begin with the socks. So these are the socks I have going right now. This one was cast on just a couple of days ago, and I'm not particularly embarrassed about this. It is really zooming by. It's in West Yorkshire Spinners yarn. I am just coming up with the pattern as I go. It's kind of my basic vanilla sock, I guess, with my favorite heel flap and gusset with a half a shorter heel to give room for the bottom heel and make this bit kind of sit up behind the heel. If I perfect it, maybe there will be some kind of recipe for it one day. I don't really know. It would have to be something I would be confident with, but I don't think everything I make that isn't a pattern should become a pattern necessarily. So that is kind of where I stand right now. But I am really happy about them. They fit my feet, and that's really all they're meant to do. And I really love them. They're jolly, they're festive, and they are the second last pair I need to make before having 12 pairs of socks knitted for this year, which will make it to the box of socks knit along that Wool and Vine is hosting. Slight caveat though, that I did find the first pair knitted this year, and they do have some suspicious looking holes in them. It may have snagged, but it may also have been some little beasts, so yeah. But yeah, these socks are zooming past. I literally have just done this the past 2 days or so, so this is not a whip of shame. However, the other ones. We first now have Magnolia. These are part of the sock society that Helen Stewart of Curious Handmade is doing, and they're beautiful. I'm using Circus Tonic handmade yarn. This is a very sort of Australian project, and they live in the project bag by Loop and Bar, who is one of my favorite project bag makers. She's UK based, and oh, it's just so beautiful. Everything about this entire project is adorable, but it's also adorably time consuming because I'm doing them 2 at a time. I can't seem to memorize this pattern. It's not an automatic thing. It is very sort of elaborate. I spent a lot of time knitting on them, particularly on public transport that have taken a long time, such as all the train journeys that I did when I was in Germany, when I was flying roundabout in Norway, to Norway, from Norway. And I'm probably going to pick them up again when I'm flying to Norway for Christmas, and hopefully have them finished, because once these are finished and the other ones are finished and I darn the first pair this year, I will have 12 pairs. So yeah, more information about these is on everything that I show you today. If you want more information, please do check my Ravelry project pages. I have linked to them below. They are as detailed as I can offer. Sometimes I just don't have the information, such as I can forget the colorway and it will not be there. So there's no point in asking if it's not there, because they usually will be, because I don't know. With some exceptions that it will probably be obvious. So hopefully that helped. It's just a digression that just struck my mind. But yeah, they are, oh, they're so beautiful. They are just the cutest socks. It's quite hard to show you them properly now that they're not blocked and all the ribs and the pearls and everything is pulling them together, and they look like they're made for extraordinarily skinny feet, but they are actually gonna fit me. And it's not like I'm that far from finishing, you know. It's possible, it is totally possible, but if I lose my optimism, I may just cast on another pair of self-striping, because they seem to really soon buy. So that was the Magnolia socks. You can only get that pattern, I believe, as part of the Sock Society. That's all I have to say about that. Now the socks of shame, and you will see in a minute why they are the socks of shame. Because these are my second and third sock designs. They came out a long time ago. There is no excuse as to why I haven't finished them. Is why I'm now being very clear and strict with myself that I only get to publish sock patterns of socks where I have finished the pair. Because if I finish one and photograph it, the incentive is gone. Yeah. This is in a bag that I picked up from Paper Chase. It's not at all a knitting bag. It's supposed to be a toiletry bag, but it's all soft fabrics through and through. This is Paper Chase logo in here. So I thought it was perfect. I love this bag. I really hope I finish this soon so I can free it, because oh, it is gorgeous. I have cast on the toe of the second sock. I really thought I'd gotten further. This is embarrassing. I only have one sock. The sock that was photographed. It is in lovely Always Etc. yarns again. We actually discussed the colorway so that they would match the idea I had for the design. Sort of inspired by the cover of the album Transcendence by my favorite band Devin Townsend project. And it's just a very simple colorwork design. There is no more than 2 colors used per row, if you can believe it. And I tried this little neat trick with colorwork across the heel, but I realized for people who struggle with their float length, that is perhaps not the best place to put it. So I have put in an alteration where it just goes across the leg here, and this is just stockinette the way a normal short row heel would be. So the design is already out. It's just that I didn't finish my pair because, I don't know, I'm ridiculous. I really do enjoy this pattern. It's so memorizable and simple, and I would have a finished pair of lovely socks if we just got around to it. Which is why this particular project resides in the pile that I have put in the cubby of my Kallax IKEA shelf that I have called projects I could finish yesterday if I just got my act together. So a lot of the projects that I pull from this side will come from that pile, if that makes sense. You will also notice that woodland prints are my favorite. It will come up a lot. And this in the slightly rude Knitting Goddess bag is the other sock design of mine that I haven't finished. And this is even more ridiculous because this is one of my absolute favorite designs of myself. That's grammar. Anyway, I'm foreign. I get a pass. The Saturday socks. I adore these socks, if I may say so. I'm gonna be tooting my horn a lot. I am very proud of them. They've done extremely well on Ravelry for colorwork socks, and in general they fit me beautifully. They are so warm. They probably stand up on their own because they're knit very tightly with Tuku wool sock yarn, which I love. Oh, it's so lovely. I just haven't finished them, and I don't know why. I just think at the time when I was trying to finish them for a deadline, there were a lot of things going on I'm not going to touch on, but ultimately they are in the pile of projects I could finish yesterday if I got my act together. I've gotten quite far on the second one even. I'm so close to the heel, and once I'm over the heel, this is really potato chippy. Again, don't know what's wrong with me. I'm quite embarrassed to admit this. It's not a very good advertisement for my own pattern. I mean, I'm already at the gusset even. I just need to turn the heel, and I've become quite acquainted with this particular heel lately. So it's not even gonna take my brain to do it. It's just gonna take, I don't know. You don't need to hear me beat up myself, but that's probably going to be a running theme this episode. And I will say, I am very much pro knitting polygamy. I don't see anything wrong with that. You do what makes you happy. If you are happier having just one project on the go, fabulous. If you're happy having 3 or 5, fabulous. If you're happy just casting on without abandon, fabulous. I just feel like I'm a bit ridiculous when I put off projects for no reason, you know? Yeah. Anyway. Last sock project that I haven't finished in ages lives in another toiletry bag that I figured worked beautifully as a project bag, and that's a Marius project bag that you can get in, like, I think in Princess in Norway. It's like a kind of curtain and bedsheet kind of shop. Norway. Anyway, this is the stocking. I already finished one. I kind of want to get back to it because I suspect this foot is a little bit too short for me. I remember making it at a time when I thought I had to pull on the sock properly hard before finding out how much I had left for the toe. Whereas later, the past year or so, I have realized actually for shorter heels, that is probably not the best idea. So it's tempting to actually rip all the way back and do a different heel that I now like better. Because the shorter heel was not part of this pattern, it was just kind of what I was into at the time. I'm just not as into shorter heels anymore. I do them sometimes, I'm not opposed. I just like to mix up shorter heels with heel flaps. There's stuff about that in nearly all my heel, yeah, and pretty much all my heel flap patterns. It's a little bit altered in Hjaltland, but Lana Vitis, which is coming, in the Serbu socks, which are already out, in the Meandrus socks, yeah, it's all in there, so you can find out that way in case you were just curious about it. And they don't actually have color work in the heel, so it shouldn't be that distracting. This is the pattern. It's a pattern made in collaboration with Hillesvåg by a designer I can't remember, so you may have to click through my Ravelry projects for that. It's using Hillesvåg Fjord yarn, which I love it. It is a bit more on the thicker side relative to Tukawool sock yarn, which is already thicker than regular sock yarn. So we're sort of, I guess we're looking at a heavy sport to DK at this. I am excited to have them for the colder season, which has kind of already begun, and it was supposed to be for the last cold season. I just, you know, things take time. But I am on the second one. It is happening. I'm really enjoying it. I have no recollection of enjoying it because it's been a year. So oh gosh, I could finish this so quickly. I mean, I'm using 4mm needle. Just get on it, Ellie. What are you doing? I have actually bought the very same yarn and colors to design something myself, because I would quite like to come up with a design in this yarn. I am really feeling the colors, but yeah. First I have to finish these. That is the incentive, and then I will convert you all to colorwork, socks and stockings. And now we're ready for part 2. I guess I'm not going to count them. I'm going to lose count. This is the part with the shawls. All the shawls that I haven't finished. It's a bigger pile. The biggest pile is going to be garments, which I'm saving for last, I think. But yeah, shawls that's a big one. I'm a bit worried about this one because this is my hat. I know it's been stored in a place where moths would love to find it if they have, but it's also been well wrapped up. And it is looking okay. So the way you knit a hat is that you make a big sort of garter square, and then you pick up around that to knit this feather and fan pattern, and then you do a kind of a knitted on border that basically you cast in every stitch by knitting a row sideways. And that is the thing that has kept me from finishing this, because I was zooming through and then I just didn't want to do the edge. Because it took time, it took concentration, and I had neither at the time. And I don't know when I'm going to have it, but I look forward to having a hat finished because it's big, it's gorgeous. I replaced the yarn with DK Weight Laxton BFL Massham, so it's going to be huge, and it's going to be a blanket for me, not for a baby, but for me, and that is exciting. I'm also very thrilled to say that I haven't found any mothy damage on this. That is very, very good news indeed. Nothing that looks like eggs or anything. So yeah, bit more proud to show you now that this is the beast. I have had lots of questions about this. What happened to it? When I'm going to finish it? Did my modifications work out? As though I can remember what they were. I think they were mainly just the size. Also, I alternated skein so that I did never have to purl. I just turned around with a new ball, which worked out wonderfully because the feather and fan is in garter, but you work in the round. And I just turned so I never had to purl, and that was part of the reason I could finish so quickly. Very, very clever, if I may say so. But yeah, the design is by Gudrun Johnston. It's the Hansel hat, and yeah, I got the yarn directly from Laxton's, but lots of hand dyers use this yarn, and perhaps they also sell the undyed version, so there are places to look for it for sure. It is lovely. It is so ridiculously soft, and it smells so sheepy. I look forward to have it finished, but at this point in time I'm not really in a a situation where it's likely that I will finish it, and I'm not beating myself up over that. I just know what is and it's not realistic. It is residing in a drawstring bag that was made to me by a lovely viewer. I think she was from Denmark. I believe the fabric was from Stoff and Steel, which is a Danish chain that we also have in Norway, and I'm very grateful for it. I absolutely love it. It fits my hat perfectly, and it's just kind of jolly. I'm just going to tie an extra strong knot just in case, you know, you can't be too careful about those little moth creatures anyway. In case anyone's worried if I suffer from a moth infestation, I just suffer from living in a London city house. That's just how it is. It's not a recurring issue. It's just, you have to be on your guard. For many of my shawls, we're now going to have to dive into the long-term pile. Projects that I don't see myself finishing anytime soon, and that's okay, and they're being prioritized thus. I don't even know if I want to call this a project, but it is a thing that I started casting on, and that is the autumn leaf shawl. It is a shawl that you can find in the loop pattern book. I think it's just called Loop 10 because they had the 10-year anniversary. It is knit in Skeindeer luxury 4-ply, which is a beautiful blend of all sorts of lovely fibers, and I got it in my favorite color. So the problem is, again, this is a sideways knitted on border where you start with the border, and it is really hard to memorize. I never got into a groove of it. And I was knitting it actually at the same time as the hap shawl and a couple of other lace things, and I realized everything I've got on the needles right now is lace, and it's not conducive to the state that I'm in, and I just let them all go for a while. I know I specifically purchased this yarn for this shawl. I've got the last bits of the yarn left. They don't make it anymore. Skeindeer is a bit in a hiatus, and I don't think they will return in the same format they were, but don't quote me on that. So this is the only thing this will be and that it can be, and I'm excited about it, but I'm not rushing it. Whenever I want to sit down with a complicated endless lace, I will already have this ready to knit. And it lives in this bag, which is very similar to the bag I got my exploration station in, which I will get to. And none of them have labels for who made them, but I think it's the same maker. I just bought them at different festivals in the UK. So if anyone wants to identify them, then feel free to do that in the comments section, because I really can't remember when it's not labeled. But I love them. I love the format of them. I love that they're drawstring. I love that they're very sort of puffy. They seem to have an interface in that sort of just air. It's some quilting, you know, and it's really lovely. Turns out exploration station actually was next. I'm just going through my Ravelry projects right now, and yes, it is indeed the next shawl coming up. It has been a long time coming, this one, and it wasn't a long break because I was avoiding the brioche section because I didn't know brioche, and I knew I wanted to do the one-pass brioche, and I really needed to be on the same knitting retreat as Nathan Taylor of Sock Mortician in order to know how to do it. And I'm very happy to say I have now mastered one-pass brioche, and it is so worth it. I love one-pass brioche, you can quote me on that. This is exploration station. I'm gonna have to use my cheat sheet to identify the yarns. The red is Madeline Tosh sock, which is arguably not actually a sock yarn, but it's a nice high twist superwash merino. I don't know which yarn is which, but I know the dark is Debonair. The two greys is, hang on, Moonlight Yarns and Dye Ninja. So, and I think the Moonlight is perhaps I'm not gonna try to guess that. But the lighter grey has some silk in it, so it's a tad bit different and a little bit more drapey. And yeah, I mastered the brioche, you guys, and it's so lovely and squishy, and I'm absolutely a big proponent of one-pass brioche. The reason I didn't finish the shawl now is because of the slip stitch pattern that I'm just not a fan. Don't like slip stitches, no. So I might just push through and finish, and I might frog the slip stitch pattern and do an eyelet pattern instead. Only time will tell. But I'm not pushing this one right now. It's not something I need ASAP. It was just a fun exploration. So I choose to record on a day where the sun is away, and this is what happens. I'm sure the sun would have stayed away had I not started recording, right? Anyway, what lives in this bag that was recently given to me by a lovely viewer, and I decided actually it's the perfect bag for a pattern that I decided in the end I wasn't going to work on. I thought I was going to do for Christmas, but time, you guys, but it is a design by Renee Callahan, who's East London Knits, and it is the Neola shawl, which I have wanted to knit for ages, since I felt the sample that was a knit with attitude, and I just knew that that's the kind of thing I want to tick off my bucket list in knitting. It is a very, actually rather simple triangle shawl with an awful lot of stockinette, I might add, and you know how I feel about purling, but yeah, very lovely. I'm now putting in a little bit of red. I believe it was initially knit with the sort of Renee colours of greys and tealy blue, but I am using red and a more warmer grey, just to change things up. And as soon as I introduced the red, apparently I lost my mojo. But it is by far not a project that I intend to give up on. It's just resting, you know. Wasn't feeling the purling, although I have since found that I may be getting more along with purling for the sort of more slick and soft yarn, which this certainly is, because this is kettle yarn and it's a silk yak merino blend, I believe. It's Bayul is the name of the base. I absolutely love it. It is a luxury yarn for sure. She's a London based dyer, in case you didn't know. And yeah, this is actually not in the long-term pile. This is the knits that I'm enjoying and would knit on if I had time pile, which I am allowed to grab for every so often. It's just, you know, I have to prioritize a couple of other things. And thus is the designer life. Anyway, in here there's a booklet. I will tell you about the bag in just a bit. But in the booklet we have this. Well, this is the booklet. In the booklet is this beautiful cape, and you may remember that I was going to knit myself this cape. I cast it on in January and did not lose steam, just had a lot of other things going on. So it looks like a weird sort of colorwork snake. There is no making sense of this whatsoever, I don't think, but it is essentially a bottom off shawl. I wonder if my casting is a little bit on the tighter side, so this may be something I have to frog in the end. Bottom, I would just frog the bottom and not the whole shawl. That would be crazy. The whole cast on took me the whole flight from London to New York, like, yeah. So I do really enjoy this. I love the color work. It is a fantastic design by Doma. I'm using Holst Super Soft. It's going to be light and beautiful. I just have not got the time, but I definitely have the mojo. And it doesn't hurt that it lives in one of my favorite project bags. I am hesitant to call this a collaboration between me and Kristen of Wool and Vine, because you have seen the bags that I have made on my own. But this was when Kristen was teaching me how to sew, which I am so grateful for, and I really want to tackle sewing more. It's just for a number of reasons. Time, the fact that it's quite noisy, and the fact that I'm quite helpless on my own still. I love this though, and Kristen did really teach me so much just about the fundamentals of the constructions and the steps involved, and it's so beautiful. I mean, look at the motif. There we go with the woodland prints again, but it's so very dark, and it's got deer on it, which you know I love, and it even has a little deer stitch marker on it. Yeah, or a doe, or a Bambi. So that's the probably my favorite project bag, and I'm keeping this project deliberately in it so that I won't forget that that is also how I feel about the project, that I really do want to work on it. And they do go well together with the color scheme and everything. So it's also a nice reminder of what I have inside, because very often the reason I have several whips is as soon as they land in a bag I forget them. Out of sight, out of mind. And here's another shawl that I'm sure many of you were excited to see what came off, and I had to take a break because of obligations. It lives in the bag by a friend of mine, Eleni, who is Manakori Designs, who makes project bags from Greece. And I bought this bag of hers when I was at the knitting retreat in Rhodes, and it is huge and very pretty. And it also matched the yarn I bought from Traileys there very well. In here is the Impressionist shawl that I was really going for as the mystery was going. But then things came up and all the clues had come out, and the incentives were, I guess, a little bit less there. Plus I was modifying it, and thus Helen's brilliant percentage system wasn't really applying to me anymore, and that system is key for me to keep going. But I have done a lot of maths to know that what I'm knitting is going to work. The gradient is beautiful. I'm knitting with Wool and Vine yarn, single ply merino, can't remember the name of the base, off the top of my head. I'm sure it will come to me afterwards. And yeah, it is a very beautiful gradient. It is just sugary sweet. The speckles are so much fun when you knit with this. And I'm going to enjoy it. I am modifying this a lot. You will perhaps remember that the Impressionist shawl by Helen Stewart is a crescent shape. And you may already know that I am not particularly keen on the crescent shapes. They just aren't a shape that wear well on me. I'd gladly make them for anyone else. It's just a personal wearability thing. So I thought I'd modify it into a different shape. And I borrowed the shape from the Winter Shawl by Pinny Goody, and it was going really well, but then I knew that I may have done something a bit wonky with the maths. That is easy to fix. I just have to redo it. It's really, I don't have to redo the knitting even, just the maths. So before I get into it, just didn't have the brain space for it. So that's why it's resting in here. And I had a lovely viewer give me her leftovers of the color that I was most worried that I would run out of. And I am so grateful for that. This I will treasure and definitely probably have use for in this shawl, because there isn't really much left of this. So thank you so much. I have by no means given up on this shawl, and it was not in vain that you sent it to me. There are now 3 shawls left, but I will be skipping one because I could not find it. But I also realized there's not much of it to show because it's a design that I'm working on, and I really am just in the first few rows. So I'm just going to show you another 2 shawls. One of which is also in wool and vine yarns and lives in my first ever fringe supply bag, full of all the fun pins. Yay! So in here we have the Oracle shawl. But as ever, I can't help myself from modifying it. So mid-row I have apparently ended, and I'm making it a, what did I call it? A 3/4 Oracle. So the Oracle shawl comes in a half moon, i.e. a half circle, or a full moon, a full circle. And I couldn't really decide, so I managed to find the happy middle ground and do a 3/4 pie shawl, which means that you're only taking out, if you have the whole shawl and you take out a pizza slice that is 1/4, not 2 but just 1, then you get this shape. And it turns out to be quite straightforward. I may have put some notes on Ravelry, but if not, it's not in my head anymore. So, but there you have it. It is, am I showing you the right way? I think I am. It's got a needle attached that should be attached to the actual cable, but I am not a very organized person. I love the colors. Kristen put together the colors for me. I was like, you know what, I trust you. It did give rise, I think, to the color Plume. I also am using Grim, and my very rude battery cut me off mid-sentence, but I was anyway just blanking on the name of the last color in the Oracle shawl. So why haven't I already finished this? Well, it was already in the beginning a bit of a cheeky cast on that I knew I did not have time for, but I just wanted to. I was really feeling the one pass brioche from the exploration station, and once I'd finished that section I just wanted to do more brioche. So I am enjoying the brioche. I'm doing them one pass as well. It's really easy to fit in the one pass brioche into the Oracle shawl, and the only thing is you need to be consistent. Only use one pass brioche or the regular. You can't go from one to the other, just so you know. The transition will definitely show. The reason I haven't continued is probably because I'm on the largest, if not second largest lace section, because they grow every time the shawl grows, because that's kind of the way of pie, and it's a lot of purling. That's the downside when you're not doing the full moon Oracle, that you have to purl because you're not working in the round. And I am now getting better along with purling. I'd like to think so after the hay sweater, so who knows, I might just get around to this again. It's just a matter of it not being urgent, you know. So yeah, that is in my fringe field bag by the Fringe Supply Company. And at last, the last shawl I have to show you is a rather recent one. It lays in the bag given to me and made by the little grey girl. And yes, I am very grateful. It is beautiful. The very appearance of this bag just makes me want to knit on this shawl more and more. But I've, yeah, really finally just hit a lot of knitting goals of mine in terms of deadlines. And this was my breathing space between those deadline knits, and I guess I have a little bit less need for all that garter now, but it's very knit night friendly, so I might just bring it on with me tonight. Every night is a knit night. Yeah, so this is the winter shawl that I referred to earlier. I have made one earlier, but I wanted to make one that is more autumnal and goes with a different color scheme. It kind of goes with this jumper, but so does the other shawl, but there's something about the other shawl that doesn't go with everything in my wardrobe. And I had more loft from Brooklyn Tweed, so I thought, why not? It is a nice mix of just garter and some texture, and then garter and then some more texture, and finishing off with an I-cord edge. And I really enjoy it. I love wearing it. It's very, very wearable. The main reason I'm making another one is just because I wear the other one so much. Some variety would not hurt. Trying to not take this personal, son. Trying to. What I was trying to say is the last color I will be putting into the shawl is this beautiful green. So hopefully the sun will give an accurate representation of the color, if anything. And yeah, it will just have these beautiful, beautiful colors. Now we're in the hat category, and I only actually have 2 hats to show for. I don't usually have any hat whips because they are usually finished rather quickly. It's just that this time I wanted to cast on one hat and then the other. It's a very obvious explanation, really. One of which is in this bag that I picked up in a second-hand shop in my neighborhood. It is knit in Brooklyn Tweed Quarry in a beautiful colorway, if I may say so. Should be information on that on Ravelry. And this is the hat. It is from Lane magazine, issue 4. It is called, I don't know. I have forgotten to put the project up on Ravelry. Neither of these have been opened as a project yet. Sloppy, so sloppy. Anyway, I am enjoying the texture that is appearing. It is cabled with the odd bit of lace. There we are. That should come up a little bit better. There we are. So it's zooming through. It's a very quick one. The yarn is very chunky, so there's really no reason why it's on hiatus, really. It's not. I mean, for a hat it probably is. I don't know. I think the problem is that I put it in a project bag and I forget about it. There you have it, the argument against project bags from the person who seemed to be hoarding them more than most people. The other hat that I have going, I am knitting her sparkling cider hat. I have just finished a rib. I hadn't brought the needles I had to go up to when I had done that, so that's where I'm at right now. I haven't decided whether to bead or not, but I don't think I will. But then again, I've never tried it. Maybe I like it, I don't know. Chances are that there are higher chances for me to finish this if I just knit it without the beads, so I may just go without. But I have things to say about the yarn because you've never even seen this project before. I am using what is left of my Lana Vita socks, which is in Wool and Vine Footsie in the Vamp Mask colorway, and I did just happen to buy my first ever skein of Shibu Silk Cloud, and the colors are rather similar, which is perhaps not surprising if you know me. But they go really well together in this hat, and I only bought 1 skein of Shibuya. It really is only good for a hat, and this seemed like the perfect hat. I am a little bit short on yarn here. I may just have like, I don't know, 20 meters too little, 40 at worst. So that should be interesting. I do need to knit a rather large size for my head, and yeah, that does not bode well. I may need to cry out for a little bit of a Vamp Mask scrap, but hopefully that won't be necessary. And yeah, so far I can't really say that I'm really enjoying it or not. I've just done the rib, it's just rib, but I am really looking forward to getting into the texture. I've heard lots of good things about this hat, and I was very eager to maybe test knit it, but I knew with myself that there's just no time. But I am now loving that I can get around to knitting it now that I know how much yarn I went into the Lana Vita's socks. So there's that. This bag was made for me by my mom out of Stuff of Steel fabric. It doesn't seem like we're going to have much luck with us regarding the sun today, so I had to pull down the blinds and rely on my studio lights, but that is fine. We are now going into the mitten whips, and actually I will say I am rather good at finishing my mittens. I have very few, relative to the other piles, very few mitten whips. It's not like my jumper pile or my shawl pile, but the whips that I haven't finished with mittens are rather shameful because they are, without exception, all my own designs. The first one we've got is first edition of Kvello. I in the end went for a burgundy yarn, so these would just never finish because they were just kind of a failed attempt at using a lighter weight yarn, because I know lots of people have successfully knit the last year's Southern Mitten Club mittens, all the mittens in the club, with sport weight yarns. So I thought I could do that, and I used this beautiful yarn by Finkhoff. It's a German brand of German non-superwash merino, which is definitely rustic to the feel. You would not mistake it for superwash merino. And yeah, for me that greatly reduced my row gauge, or tighten it if you want to go by the number. I basically got a very squat mitten, so when I pull it down to my cuff, my fingers have to bend to fit in, whereas the actual mittens, when knit in DK weight, fit me beautifully. So these just weren't finished because they didn't fit me. I should still be able to finish them and have them as a sample or give them to someone. I just don't know who has smaller hands or shorter fingers than me, so I just haven't. So it doesn't even have a thumb. So sad. But I have finished a pair of these, it's just not this pair. There's actually quite a bit of UFOs in this particular bag. There's a skirt that I completely failed at because I, for some magical reason, got a different gauge than I always get with this yarn otherwise. There's also that raglan that I tried to do that ended up getting a way too big neck opening, and I got different gauge on the sleeve portion than the body portion, so that also got the frog. So these are the kind of UFOs that I don't see any point in showing you because I have essentially ripped them out. I just haven't actually practically done that. But yeah, the last two mitten projects of shame. I can start with this one. It lives in a bag made by Gail, who is a local London knitter and had made me two beautiful project bags that I'm so very grateful for. I was given the choice to give them away or keep them, and I did keep them. But now they're like hosting projects that I'm never knitting on, so I feel a little bit guilty for that. Maybe they will make it giveaways. I don't know. They're really beautiful. It's got the print on the inside and everything. Anyway, what is on the inside is Julekväll, the first version of Julekväll that I knitted, and the reason I never finished them was that the contrast for the cuff was a little bit on the poor side, and I eventually landed on the blues and the whites and the reds that I eventually went with. This is Uradale yarn, which is a wonderful Shetland yarn. I absolutely adore this color, and it was given to me in a swap that I did with a viewer, and they are really nice. There's nothing wrong with them. They got the whole, everything is here, and I just have to make another one and I would have a lovely pair of mittens to give away. I don't know why I haven't. Thus why it's in the pile of projects I could finish yesterday if I just got my act together. And so in this bag, whose maker I don't know who is. I bought it from someone at Fibre East last year. If anyone knows, then please do let me know. But the bag is beautiful, perfect woodland print, absolutely fell for it. And in this bag, this is a very shameful one. There's actually only one mitten. So you may remember I had knitted the pumpkin spice mittens, and I had accidentally made two, I think, left hand mittens, possibly two right hand. So I realized then, okay, all I need to do is to knit another two, because one was orange on white and the other one was white on orange. And I just realized I could have two pairs that are different. Great. And I have basically finished one of the pairs. I think if I add a thumb on this and I block it, I will have the orange pair done. But judging by this cast on, I have not finished the white pair with the orange contrast. And once I do, I will have two finished pairs of my own design. But I haven't gotten around to it because the pattern is out. And once I release the pattern, apparently my brain just moves on to the next thing. They both live in the pile of projects I could finish yesterday if I just got my act together. Of course the sun goes away when I put the blinds down. I mean, why would you? Anyway, we're already off to the next category. In fact, we are at the last category, the one with the garments. Yeah. One of which actually lives in this tiny bag that was sort of an accessory bag to the one where my Hansel hat lies in. And it's where I put a garment I cast on last summer that I never finished for a number of kind of almost emotionally loaded reasons that I will not bother you with. But it's really, it is just the rib. I am knitting a lace weight, lace texture vintage blouse. And I have absolutely no mojo to knit that right now, which I probably have clarified with many projects with you today. It's the cable and the rib is tangled, so this is the best way I can show it to you. The color is everything. I got this at Stuff for Steel as well. This is their, I think, pure wool, the timeless pure wool, which is a very sort of similar yarn to Fall Super Soft, albeit finer and already washed up. Very affordable, beautiful colors. And I have pushed through the rib. There's not that much left, although maybe I'm saying that too soon, because it is a vintage top and they tend to have quite a lot of rib to mark the waist. It shouldn't be that hard to finish. I remember I was zooming through the swatch, so it's just that I'm not in the lace mood really. This is the swatch with some annoying stitch markers just to distract you. It's been a bit curled up, but it was blocked once upon a time. It's going to be an absolutely gorgeous top. It's just, I was eager to cast it on because I think Jacqueline of Brooklyn Knit Folk had a knit along for people to knit kind of undiscovered patterns, and I thought this would be a perfect entry, but I didn't finish at all. So, and I kind of knew I wouldn't when I started, so I'm not beating myself up over it, and that is why it lives in a bag that's not even big enough to contain a garment. It hardly counts as a work in progress when it's just the rib. It's just, I don't want to frog it because someday I will knit it and then it will be ready for me, you know? That's actually the answer to a lot of my works in progress, is that I don't personally see the huge difference between having something in stash and having something on my needles. That is just my logic for my stash, you know. The next project is a beauty, and it's by no means going to be frogged. This is not going to be a bowline. You know who I'm talking to. So this lives in this beautiful Doctor Who themed English village bag that was made for me by Louise from Australia. Thank you so much, Louise. It came to me at a time where I really needed something to brighten up my day. So in here is an absolute favorite project of mine that I just need to have the mind space to finish. There is some like emotional attachment issues with this thing as well that is the reason why I haven't finished it. I made it at a time where everything felt like it was falling apart, and I was just kind of in a soft state that was just kind of a fetal position and trying to survive kind of thing, and mental health digression. This was kind of just all I focused on, and I zoomed through the entire body in just days. It took me no time at all. I decided to crop it though, so I will admit it took me less time than some. It's using a huge collection of different yarns. There is whole super soft happening in here. There's some garnet silk, Black Hill Highland wool, which is very similar. I'm using more of the timeless wool from Stuff for Steel that the previous garment was in. I do believe there's some JC Rennie in here as well. It's a good mix of very light fingering weight, 100% non-superwashed wool, sheep wool yarn. So, and it was the sleeves that got to me. I mean, I'm enjoying them. It's just the fact that you have to weave in the ends here. Here, I will gladly leave off the ends at the join of the steek. I've even already put in the crochet band, so it's ready to cut really. I just like to give it a wash first, and I don't really see the point in washing it until the sleeves are done. So I do feel like the rib of the neck is rather sort of stands up and is a bit loose relative to the rest, which could be down to me and my faulty choice of needle size, but we'll see how it blocks out. Anyway, the rib is knit back and forth, so that is the thing I can change anytime I like, quite frankly, even when I have cut it, because there's no steek for the actual rib of the neckline. So that's neat. I have already got the rib for the bottom as well. It's really so close to being finished. I thought it was going to be done super soon given the short amount of time it took me to knit this entire thing. It's just the sleeves that, I mean, Sleeve Island is hard enough, but when you have to weave in ends and there's a lot of change of yarn, I mean, it's just, I've got a lot of excuses, but I do love this thing. I do very much look forward to having it finished. It's going to be such a piece of pride for me because I've never really done a full-on color work thing like this. And the color choices I'm very, very proud of. I forgot to mention the pattern entirely, didn't I? This is the Land og Strand cardigan by Pinneguri. No surprise there. She did gift me the pattern when I was sort of going, I don't know, I think I was just swooning over it and I wasn't thinking, and the next thing I know I got the pattern. So just for disclosure, absolutely love it. It lives in a very big bag because all the different yarns are in here as well. The garment itself is very lightweight and takes very little space, but there are a lot of yarns to go with it. And I think that is the key primary main reason it's not been finished, is that it's not easy to carry around with me because it takes up so much space because of all the different yarns. Not surprising perhaps is that it lives in the same pile with my Roma cape, the one in the woolen bind bag, because they both kind of give me that same feeling of just a sea of color work that I can just sort of disappear into. This lives in the bag of, or the box of things I don't think I'll finish anytime soon, and that was the very intention when I even cast it on. I just knew I wanted to knit something, but I was not going to commit to finishing it. It has a lot of lovely pins on it. This is kind of where I was gonna say this is where I put buttons and not enamel pins, but it looks like an enamel pin has snuck in here from the Woolly Thistle, which if I lived in America, this will be my #1 yarn shop online for sure, and I may need to shift it over to my French supply bag. So in here, this bag was made by my mum, by the way. It's the same fabric as the other one I showed you. In here is the Knox sweater by Michelle Wong. It is a very tight gauge, lots of, you know, fiddly cable knitting, and that is why I'm not committing to anything. It's just the thing that will be finished when it's finished. No rush. I mean, I can't ever imagine a time where I'm not going to love this thing. And I am showing you, am I showing you the right way? I am showing you the right way. All the cables, all the cables. You will be delighted to know, if you're ever curious about knitting this thing, it's all 2x2 cables. The whole thing, as intricate as it may look, everything is 2x2 cables. It's really actually not that hard. You just need to focus, of course. And the back side is rather simple. It's knits and purl, and that is why I actually don't mind following the pattern and knitting it flat, because if it's going to be an alternation of knits and purls anyway, there's no avoiding the purling. So I will have a go at this whole knitting flat and seaming thing and see how I feel about it. No, I'm not gonna knock it until I tried it. I'm using Quince & Co. Lark, which I purchased at Argyle in Brooklyn, New York, and I cast it on when I was there and when I was staying at Jacqueline's. Hello, son. Why you do this to me? Just for the hell of it, I'm going to show you the swatch that I did. I did this swatch. I am sometimes good, mostly when I don't know the gauge of the actual texture that I'm using, be it lace or cables or otherwise. I do have a very good inkling of what kind of needle I need when I do stockinette, so it's mainly just for other textures that I need swatching, which is why I'm a big fan of when designers do their swatch in stockinette, so they can tell me what the gauge in stockinette would be had this garment been in stockinette. But I realized maybe the change from stockinette to the texture, the change of gauge there might be different from knitter to knitter, so you could make an argument for why they don't do that as well. Digression. Anyway, it is made in Quince & Co. Lark. I do have a number of sweater quantities in it now. I have one in this color. I have one in the Malbec color that's similar to the sweater I'm wearing actually. I also have the Agatha cardigan that it's more and more looking like I will frog and do something else with, because I never wore it, not once. Primarily because the sleeves, so it's just the sleeves I need redoing, but I wonder if maybe that wasn't for me after all. I'm not sure. Maybe I'll just do the sleeves and we'll see if actually I love it then, because I have a friend who knitted in bright red and it's gorgeous. So that was a digression. This is just a Knox sweater. It is a sort of cropped all over cabled knit flat and seam sweater by Michelle Wong, of course, and maybe I finish it in 5 years. I don't know, I don't care. It's just that whenever I feel like cabling, I know I have this thing ready to pick up, and it's so a funny noisy bag. It's just good for when you're feeling the cable mojo. You don't have to cast on something new every time and then press yourself into cabling until you're done so you never want to look at a cable again. At least that's me and my thinking and feeling with knitting. It does live in the bag of things that I will not finish anytime soon, realistically speaking. And here, a project again from the pile of things I could finish yesterday if I only got my act together, is a project I know many of you have been wanting to see finished, myself included, especially now that it's colder. It is my dress in Pluttelope, and it lives in this bag from, I forgot her name. Something Anyway, she does these box bottom canvas bags that are huge and can fit all the things. I do want to put out a request if anyone who I know here in London who knows how to sew want to help me, and if you happen to be watching this, I would like to have the lining redone, because the lining is not flat. It's not actually filling out this entire the space in this box. It is sort of hanging in there like a hammock, and I don't know if I can show you. Yeah, this isn't like reaching the end. If I push this in here, then it's not pushed in on the other side. There's a lot of missed opportunity here because of this lining. I don't know if that made sense. I don't know if anyone else who received these bags have the same thing. It just doesn't seem to allow me to use the entire size of this bag, and that was the whole selling point of it. So I am throwing that out there if anyone who I know in London who knows how to sew would like to change up this so that actually it reaches corner to corner, all four corners. That would be a Christmas present, and I would do something nice for you in return, knitting or food or otherwise. Maybe it actually helps if I just pull out the lining just to show you. So this is the lining. It's shaped like this, just 2 corners, whereas the bag has 4, and thus the problem when I reach it from corner to corner here, it does not reach corner to corner here. And yeah, this sounds like a complaint. It's not. It's just me wanting something else of the bag than what I got. That's fine. The dress. You wanted to know about the dress. Yes. So I'm using Pluttelope, and I'm just investigating it for moths because you can never be too careful, but it looks like it's fine. So yes, the yarn I am using, Pluttelope from Istex. This is the same people that make Letlope, and it is absolutely gorgeous. I got this yarn from an Icelandic knitter who just wanted to send me Letlope to try out, and I got a tower of Letlope, and I decided it's finally time to cast on this dress that has been in my queue probably longer than any other queue item. So this is the dress. This is Klukka. It's made for Letlope, but actually Pluttelope knits about the same gauge, even though it's unspun, unplied Letlope essentially. And so yeah, I've done the lace at the bottom, I've done the color work with the flowers, and I have just zoomed through all the stockinette because it was freezing in London last March, so having this on my lap actually helped a great deal. And I have gotten through all the rib, which isn't the easiest in this yarn, and I've got 1 centimeter left before I'm back on the stockinette for the top. So that's kind of, I don't know, bra wiring up to do the straps, and it's really not that much left. I don't know why I haven't finished. Yes, I do know, because we had half a year of 30 something degrees. That is why. So it's totally fine that it's not been finished yet. I will probably get back to it when it's getting colder, which isn't happening anytime soon because it's like been 13 degrees all December, and I'm like, do you not know what winter is? It's a good thing this bag still can fit a lot of things in it. It fits all the yarn and the dress. So once it's actually all kind of tied up together, it does fit the world. And now we mark the transition into summer knits because it got hot from April onwards. It was freezing in March, and then from April until about September it was boiling hot in London, and I felt like casting on a long-term queue item that I knew was going to be more of a summery cardigan, still in wool but in superwash blue faced Leicester from Travel Knitter, and this yarn that I adore because honestly this color, have I like stopped? Who stops mid-row when they've only like got, what, 10 stitches left? Who does that? I do that. So I am knitting on this Alicia Beth cardigan by Justina Lokoska, using the lovely, amazing contiguous method that I'm a big fan of. Imagine knitting satin sleeves, but it feels like you're doing a raglan. That is kind of how it feels. I am actually knitting it flat because there's so much purling involved on either side that I might as well, because there's no avoiding the purling, and then I do that. Getting through the sleeves was a little bit of a slug, but I'm done now. They're put aside. I get to knit them in the round later. Had a bit of a panic there because one of the stitches looked awfully loose, and I was like, have the moths eaten it? But no, this is fine. Most of my knitting is very well protected. It's just some socks that I had balled up under my bed that are looking a little bit disheveled, and so it's made me paranoid about everything that I know that I'm protecting well. Anyway, it is lovely. I really just have to knit mindlessly through this lovely fake cable design here. Honestly, it's mindless. You won't believe me, but it really is. If you've never tried faux cables before, I really strongly urge you to have a go at it. It's really nice. So I just need to knit that back and forth. I can bring it around anywhere. There's the button bands that cast on later, so I don't have to think about that. There are no excuses really, other than it got colder again, so I lost steam. Plus all the deadlines. Let's not forget the deadlines. And the sleeves will be done in no time, because actually pure stockinette sleeves I can get through pretty quickly. So I do have this in the pile of things that I think are fun knits but aren't urgent, so I will reach for them when I reach for them, kind of thing. Same with, you know, the colourwork sweater I showed you and the cape. And it lives in one of the best bags my mom made me. It's this adorable dragon bag with a zipper. I really love this one, and again, I try to keep projects that I know are giving me all the good feels in happy bags that I want to reach for. And I really do love this yarn by Travel Knitter. I do love all of her colours pretty much. They're right up my alley. They're very stark, very strong. And now a bag that was given to me by Twisted Thread. I need to start knitting on this because it's really festive. And I absolutely love this project that resides in it. The project is definitely the kind of project that I'm in the mood to knit now. It's got a lot of stockinette. Most of it is actually close to being done. And it is, drum roll, Threightmere. I zoomed through the yoke, as I always do, because yokes are fun. Then I got through the stockinette on my trip to Bergen, because I needed lots of stockinette whilst actually talking to people, which I sometimes do, or at least I sit and eavesdrop on them like a creep. Is that the postman? It was the postman, and I got two things, and I'm pretty sure I know what they both are. So first of all, I have been sent a bunch of stitch markers from a knitter that I know in my hometown, Camilla, and I believe these are it. Shall I have a look at them now? So she sent them to me for giveaway prices, well, for Cal prices, because I awkwardly asked earlier if anyone wanted to donate, and I think maybe that wasn't such a bad idea, because it actually means that those who feel like it's too awkward to offer, because I will feel obliged, don't have to feel that awkward. I don't have to ask anyone directly, because that makes me feel like I'm someone who's like, surely that thing that you sell and try to make a living off isn't worth anything, so you can just give it to me. That's, you know, not on either. So it really helped to just have an open call. And yeah, Camilla responded, and let's see what she sent. So these are already pretty nicely laid out. Yes. And these are a bit squashed together, but hopefully you can make sense of them. It's kind of hard to move them around, but yeah, we got 3 sets of stitch markers that will go into Cal prices. So thank you so much, Camilla. I told you guys this was going to be a different episode. There was no plan here, no plan. The other thing I got, which I'm very excited about, because it's apparently out of print already, so I'm glad I didn't wait until it hit the shops. This book, proper Kate Davies book, in the same year where we've already been given a proper Kate Davies book. It's full of hat patterns from a plethora of designers, Diana Walla included, so that makes me very excited. This hat is by Ella Gordon, and it's just stunning. And Diana, there she is, her hat and everything. So it's all made with a Kate Davies new tweed yarn that I've really been wanting to try, and I'm like this close to ordering myself a kit for that blue yoke that uses that yarn. Balmorea. There's also this really cool double knit hat with the so-called Norwegian star that isn't really Norwegian. I love that. Oh, I'm gonna be enjoying this, but I haven't read through it at all. I literally just pulled it out of here, so which is usually how it goes anyway. I'm gonna get back to talk about my garments now. I just thought you might want to, you know, see what I got. Plus, let's face it, I can't really not open right away, so might as well make it part of the podcast. Anyway, I was talking about Threipnir and how I really do think this has a high chance of being finished rather soon. I would love to have it finished so I can photograph it in the fjord where my mum lives when I'm gonna go home for Christmas. But there's a lot of things that I'm saying that about and none of them are finished, so anyway. This is Threipnir by Isolde Teague. It's knit in JC Rennie, super soft. I might actually be happy with the body length soon, because I thought I was going to do it longer, but now I'm realizing it just looks ridiculous on me when cozy jumpers are long. Especially when they have no shaping, which I didn't put in this, because for once in a lifetime I'm actually sort of almost following the pattern. I do use another increase method, namely the make one left and right rather than lifted increases. That's hardly a modification. It looks exactly the same, so I'm not actually modifying this thing, which is exciting. Also, I'm thinking this is going to go so well with the So Data hat by Isolde that I made earlier and the yellow shawl I'm designing. That's an outfit with an entirely different color scheme, you guys. And because it's knit in super soft, it fits right into this bag that was probably only meant for socks and such. But these jumpers, they're so lightweight, they take no space, and that's why I love making them, because it actually means I will be bringing them around, and it's a likely project for me to bring around as well. And yes, it lives in the pile of things that are not urgent, but I do think I want to knit on them because they have a lot of knitting mojo in them. I've been debating about showing you this particular whip. I have never showed it to anyone before. This is a rather special announcement, and I'm only doing it for those of you who have stuck with me so far. There was no warning up front. I will be launching it when the design comes out properly, but I think I'm ready to show you. Again, this is one of those things I like to have finished by Christmas so I can photograph it in the fjord, because that would be an amazing pattern photo. And I've been sitting on this design for probably a year. I have been knitting it even during the great big heat wave that was half of 2018, and it's not even done yet. So that's a realistic goal. But anyway, it lives in my Fat Squirrel Speaks bags, Fat Squirrel design bag. I don't know what she calls her bag, but I love her bags. Amy Beth of the Fat Squirrel Speaks podcast makes the best bags, and Amy Florence, who went to SSK, brought me this bag back, and it's just so lovely, and it actually fits this giant beast of a project I am finally going to reveal to you. A deep breath. I'm designing a proper lusekofta. Can you even see me behind here? It's big. It is big. It's supposed to be really big, kind of knit tight, stands up on its own kind of thing. I'm using Cardigans. That a big pile of it I was given by SKD yarns, and I have bought some extra just in case, because it is going to eat up a lot of yarn. Yes, you could probably hold whole super soft double if you want to save up money there. No idea how much I'm going to be using yet. It is a beast. It is such a beast. You can see where I'm planning to steek this. It has a double folded hem at the bottom. I'm reckoning that will look less awkward once it's blocked, but it's already looking really good. I am going to have a different motif up on the upper chest. Going to look a little bit kind of wavy, swirly, yeah. So there's a lusekofta for you. I've done the sleeves already. Both of them are like super close to being done, but I did lose steam in the heat wave, I will admit. So there's one sleeve. You can see how big they are. This is supposed to be a proper like cabin jacket, you know. It's supposed to function as a jacket. I got inspired to make this during the great cold of March, so I guess technically I worked on it like 3/4 of a year, but the plan was already in motion last summer. Yeah, it's huge. And I am now going to knit the kind of beleg. I don't know what we call beleg in English. It's like a cover for the armhole. So when you sew something on that is a drops shoulder design, which is what this is, you get this extra cover to cover up that seam with, especially because when steeking, which we are going to do, even for the armholes, you can have the stockinette portion to cover it, sort of like a sandwich steek. Maybe that's exactly what it is. I've never heard it applied to the armholes, but it might be. And if you're curious about sandwich steeks, then do check out Kate Davies's blog. Anyway, got the other sleeve going too. It's not too far behind, and the sleeves are quick. The body might be a slog, but the sleeves are super fast. And this is not an official call for test knitters. I have been in talks with some, but that was a long time ago. So I want to check if you are very, very fast, if you know you're going to provide very good details, honest feedback, and I'm talking very fast here, and you don't mind working from an incomplete pattern where you have continuous kind of updates, and it's really not an ideal thing, so you really need to know that you can do the job. But if you can, I will allow for being sent Ravelry messages about this if you would like to test knit. I don't usually open test knit calls that way, because it usually means I will have 150 private messages. I really want to make sure this is only for those that really do believe they can do this very fast, very thoroughly, and have very nice photos to show for in the end. I don't want to make it sound like it's going to be unpleasant. I'm usually very lenient about deadlines. I just want to know that at least you go in with the intent of finishing quickly, because it needs to come out this winter, of course. So I hope I made that sound just unappealing enough that I'm not going to be spammed, but that it's appealing enough to have some people volunteer. Yeah. It has mainly taken me time because of the heat wave and because other deadline knits came up, such as Skumring and Isbre, that obviously had to be prioritized because they were going to be published in magazines. But now I have all the time in the world to knit on this, so I am knitting on it again. That's a big fat lie, but I'm intending to. And yeah, very excited for this thing to come out. It's nice that I'm going to be moving away from the standard yoke designs I've been doing, that we're finally going to have a drop shoulder, drop sleeve, whatever you call that design. It's a very classic Norwegian fit, a very traditional looking cardigan, a very traditional construction. I'm very nervous about it. I'm also very excited. It's one of those things that I wanted to design to sort of prove to myself that I'm at a certain level in my designing, if you will. So that was a big reveal that I wasn't sure I was going to do even, but it's out there now. Like, I mean, the pattern isn't. The announcement that this is a thing that will become a thing is out. I wanted to tell you as soon as I cast it on back in April or May, but knowing myself, I knew it was going to take a lot of time, and I knew I could keep the hype up from then till now, and it's now been further delayed, so I'm only now telling you. And this is going to be such a staple in my wardrobe as well. Like, I'm actually knitting this primarily because I need it. I need to have something big to throw on that functions as a jacket and really expresses who I am, to put it in a very cheesy way. And drawing another project from the pile of things I could finish yesterday if I only got my act together is Hodgson's Joy, which is the biggest piece of shame I have, because I had promised the fiber company to have it finished by September, but I have informed them of all the reasons why I couldn't, both personal, professional, and so I have all the intentions in the world of finishing this thing. I am really loving it. I was looking forward to wearing it this autumn, but there we are. It's not really autumn anymore, is it? It is a beautiful green cardigan in the new fiber company yarn Lore that you can now get, and the pattern is available. I managed to send forth all my feedback whilst knitting it. I did want it to be part of the great launch, but alas. So I've done one of the fronts. I need to do the other front and then the back, and then I can just sew on the sleeves because the sleeves are also done. So it's a kind of classic construction. It's designed by Sarah Hatton. I will say there's a lot of fuss to do the texture whilst not actually having a texture that shows up very well. and the body seems to pucker a bit with a different texture that I really did try to get gauge on, but I may have failed at that. We'll see. We hope it will block out, right? Because if not, I chose to steek this thing. I asked permission and I already cut it just to try and see if it was steekable yarn. It certainly is. Only crochet reinforcement there, and you can steek with lure. I feel like this green is stronger than the green that ended up hitting the shops. I could be wrong there, but that's just a thing I thought worth mentioning. It seems a bit more of a muted green, what you can find in the yarn shops. So yeah, Hodgson's Joy will be finished and will be worn and loved, but it had to just be put aside when I got all these deadline knits. And I will show you the sleeves though, they are finished. Yeah, very deep arm size, which size, is that how you say it? These? So it will have a very nice and relaxed fit. Kind of sort of serving the same job as my great cardigan project, but for slightly less cold weather, because it's not stranded and it's not knit that tight, but it does have a rather nice firm fabric to it. And the color is great as well. It's a color I've been exploring more lately. I don't think it's my best, but it certainly is the color that works for me. It's not burgundy, but it's nice and it works with burgundy. I could wear this on top of this jumper and it will look amazing. And with the new winter shawl that I'm working up, that's a new outfit already right there. A project that could be in the I could finish this yesterday pile, but it's actually more in the deadline pile, is Floof. Because Floof really should have come out soon. I just had other things going on. Seems to be the answer for today and all the projects. Floof is nearly done. It needs weaving in the ends. The sleeves are done, nice and long, just how I love them. The body's supposed to be cropped, but I need a couple of inches more before I do the short rows and the rib. There's not really much left. My test knitters are way more ahead of me than I am. I believe some have even finished. Yeah, it's a silk mohair and fine wool held together. More on that when the pattern comes out. It uses the contiguous method, which I love. And yeah, it just is very nice and light, and it's going to be a very different design of mine. A plain stockinette thing and just a wardrobe staple, nothing. No colour work. It's very outside of my comfort zone, where I just have to trust my design skills and construction abilities, not covering it up in colour work or anything. It's quite frightening, I've got to be honest. The bag that it lives in is from Plystre. It matches my rucksack from Plystre and it came with it, and I like to free it for projects that would actually be in the bag a little bit more, you know. And in this beautiful antler and acorn bag that I got from a fellow knitter at the Rhodes Knitting Retreat, I have a bit of a summer knit, because I'm not usually one for being affected by the seasons in terms of what I'm knitting or whether I'm knitting, but it did actually happen on a few occasions this year where I stopped knitting on the really big hot projects and started knitting on more summery things. One of which was Tenya by Caitlin Hunter, and I got quite far, and it's so beautiful. I did actually cheat and block out the lace while it was still on the needles, and I can't get over this. I mean, it's ridiculously beautiful. I am knitting it in Woolmiser lace. It has bunched up a little bit in the project bag, but yeah, it's a nice boxy fit, a drop shoulder. I am knitting it at a tighter gauge than the pattern says, just because I'm knitting it as such a looser, finer yarn. Woolmiser lace, I would argue, is a light fingering weight, and I think Caitlin Hunter used a fingering weight bordering sport weight. So I felt like for the gauge I needed to just tighten up a little bit, and a larger size, which means it will take me longer. And I have gotten to the point now where I need to split for the underarm, maybe, and knit back and forth, and that is why this hasn't been worked on any further, because we all know how I feel about purling. Even though I could easily cast on a project top down that starts off with the purling and be fine, which I did subsequently, which is ridiculous. So yeah, Tenya, I guess I'm not as inspired to knit it now that it's not super hot, but at the same time though, seasons don't affect me that strongly. So it is currently in the pile of things that I am enjoying knitting, but it's not urgent, but I'm allowed to reach for it if I so wish, because it's knitting and it's supposed to be fun. And here's a project that I did not think I was going to have any steam on. I just wanted to try out Åsa Tykåsa's zigzag method, which has completely captivated me this whole year. But But what happened was actually that I got very far on it. That was not the plan, so it is the thing I actually see myself finishing. I am using Joe Sharp Silk Road yarn that I got from the D-Stash pot at Wild and Wool in London. I finished both sleeves. They have a little sort of nice green little detail on either sleeve. There we are. And it's good that I got some contrast yarn with the Joe Sharp yarn. I have plenty left, so I could do a green hat with it, and that, I guess, would technically match this, but it could also make a good present. Now, I have brought this thing with me many places, and it's very potato chippy, just knits and pearls. Not my favorite yarn to purl with, but I'm getting through it. Obviously, I have so far. But having said that, I need to remember how the buttonholes are knitted, because they are knitted, the button bands are knitted as part of this. And I don't remember, and I would have to photograph a part of the book, I think, and several, because it's a little bit here and there I don't quite remember. So that is something I need to do, and then I could really have this as my Bring to Knit Night potato chip project, and it would actually be done relatively soon. It is quite nice though that I know I'm maybe short of yarn, but all I have left in this thing is to just knit until I'm out of yarn, and then I can bind off, and there's nothing more that needs doing. No seaming, no nothing. The button bands are part of it. I don't have to estimate anything. I just keep knitting until I've got enough yarn to bind off. That's the only estimate I need doing. So that's pretty nice. That's Jadeite by Åsa Tikvasa from her amazing Ziggurat book. This is a kind of, yeah, tweedy silk wool blend, I believe. I do think it has some cashmere in it as well, and yeah, it is very nice and soft and tweedy. It does live in this beautiful bag that I picked up from Casey's Pockets to Go that I bought at Vogue Knitting Live in New York in January. And I love it because it's got raccoons on it, and I did see my very first raccoons in New York. We don't really get them around here, so that was very exciting. And we are reaching for the pile of projects from the things that I could finish yesterday if I got my act together. It rolls off the tongue, doesn't it? It's Tarmac by fellow designers and kind of also neighbor Animals. She designed this for Pom Pom, their stripe issue from this summer, and I mean, it's so close to being done. I just stopped knitting on it when it got colder. I had a bit of a personal crisis during this heat wave. I had no knitwear to wear because it was all too hot. This is a cotton lamb's wool blend, and it's knit so loosely it's practically transparent, so I will be definitely wearing a bra underneath. But I reckon it's quite cool. And I've gotten through a lot of purling, and now I'm just knitting it around. It was a great project to bring around when I was traveling in the heat wave, because I could just knit it with friends and not think. I really like it. I wish I had known about the helical knitting at the time, because there is a bit of a jog, and all I need doing now is just knit a little bit further, bind off or whatever, and do the I-cord. Maybe the I-cord is part of the bind off. It probably is. I am not entirely sure what yarn I will be using. I might just use the same yarn and colours. I'm still thinking about that. Haven't decided. It was a bit of a spur of the moment cast on because it was so hot, and I just needed to wear some knitwear that felt like me without melting in it. I didn't even know what colours I was casting on because it was so dark by the time I cast on. I thought I was knitting with greys, but it's actually a grey and a navy blue. And that lives in a beautiful bag by this particular maker here. We now only have 4 projects left to show, but I did actually find the shawl that I was designing myself, so I will be showing you that at the end. It's all a mess. Another bit of a cheeky cast on that I didn't think I would actually have any mojo with long term. I just wanted to cast on. I know this is how my brain works. You're welcome for the insight. It is Polworth by Isolde Teague, and I mean, I guess I didn't know I was so drawn to pure stockinette in that moment, but I have been since. So I have actually zoomed through both sleeves on this. It starts off with a brioche neckline that is not looking too good, not because of any fault of the brioche, it's just not pulling together, so it's flopping back, and I haven't found a solution. If I knew how to graft in brioche, I would, because the brioche continues all the way down to the front, so it can't just be seamed on the way you usually would. There's a lot of solutions that would normally work that isn't working for this one. Elastic seems to be the only option, really. Yeah, because this brioche is just very limiting what I can do about it. I can't just knit a new one and graft it on unless I find out how to graft in brioche. Anyway, I have got one sleeve completely done with a brioche cuff and a tubular bind off. It's a little bit rigid because you couldn't really do the slip stitches in the beginning, but I'm gonna get my hand through, so I don't really care too much. And the other sleeve I got pretty far on, but you know, I'm working on several things, so that doesn't mean that I have to finish. I'm using the amazing Steinfine wool by the Little Grey Sheep. It is so lovely. I have a slight fear that it's going to pill like nobody's business, but we will see. It has fluffed up a little bit, so that does not bode too well. This is how it's looking so far. I adore the colors. I did actually stripe it where it does look like it's pulling, so that's a little bit odd, but oh well. Oh well. It looks a lot more extreme when I'm holding it up to the camera because it's kind of blowing out a little bit. The bag that it lives in is a bag I was given by Maud. It's a bag maker in Oslo that you can find in the Vadbit shop that she gave to me to basically talk about on the podcast. So I'm talking about it any chance that I get. It's a beautiful canvas bag that she dyes the fabric herself and puts in these lovely leather drawstrings that are very sturdy, and this is her little logo because it also resides in the pile of things that I enjoy knitting on, but it's not particularly urgent. This is arguably a garment in progress. This is a cantus, which is what I'm calling a future pattern of mine. That is a ziggurat, but with steeked armholes, neckline and front for the cardigan. So it looks like a cat hat right now. This is the back of the neck. This is the actual neckline, so here. And now we have another steek for the front of the cardigan. And there's a steek for each armhole because I don't want color work on the armhole. That's pretty much all I'm going to reveal right now. It is a very interesting design that is going to come a long way ahead from now. As a distant future project, a pattern. I have the plan, I know what it's going to look like, but I wouldn't imagine it would come out this winter at all. That would be amazing if it did. I'm using PT2. I was hoarding this color when they were discontinuing PT2 because they didn't really replace it in the phenol PT2 colors. They have similar ones, but I'm quite particular about this color, so I'm gonna be using that and none of you can have it. Terrible idea, Ellie, terrible idea. But you can use any phenol yarn and Usk and Tuki wool and super soft from Holst and what have you. And this definitely resides in the pile of things that should be finished because I cast it on with that very intention, and that is Hetty by Andy Satterlin in one of my more recent Fringe Supply bags. The reason it's not done is because, well, I know I have too little yarn. I have enough yarn to do either sleeve. I haven't done the second sleeve yet, so there you go, but I have yarn for it. I just don't have enough yarn for the button bands. So because I know it's not going to be done like that, I'm just waiting it out. I have found a person in Germany who had the yarn and the colorway. Maybe not the same dialect, but we can only hope. This is the oregano colorway by Knit Picks in the Wool of the Andes bulky that I got from Kristen of Woolenvine when she was destashing a little bit. It is the Hetty design by Andy Satterlin, but I hardly used the pattern. I completely went ziggurat on this. Just used the method from the Jadeite and from her book, also di Cosa, and yeah, it really worked. I can translate pretty much any satin sleeve design now to her method, and I'm enjoying it so much more because no ends, no ends. There's one end for the cast on, and then you obviously have to do them for when you join the sleeve, but it's like compared to the usual method where you have to have one for cast on here, one for here, and then one for each front, and then for one for each sleeve up here. Sometimes even when you join for the fronts here as well, and I'm like, I don't have time for that. So I am absolutely in love with this method, and it was really nice to try it out in an Andy Satterlin pattern because I'm quite familiar with her construction style, and so it was really fun to try that familiar style of knitting and seeing if I could apply this other knowledge that I have and still get very much her aesthetic that I still really do like. So that was cool, and I can definitely recommend it. I can recommend the pattern as well, even though I didn't use it, of course. It's just, you know. Okay, so 2 projects have appeared that I need to talk about, but I also have another 2 that I plan to talk about. One of which is Rocaine. This was knit for the knit along that Amy Florence of the Stranded podcast was doing, and I've completely missed submitting it. Even though it didn't have to be finished, I could submit it, and I forgot. So it is happening. I was ahead of Amy for a while there, not that I'm competitive, but you know, it's worth pointing out. And I do have the front done. So it's on the needles, just looks a bit, or the cable rather. So that's the front, that's how it's looking. It's a provisional cast on, so I need to pick that up and do the rib later on, which is nice because I can decide the length and use as much of the remaining yarn as I can. I am currently working up the back. It is actually zooming through pretty nicely, despite the purling. So there's no reason why this one isn't done. I just had other things to knit. There's always a story. It costs a lot of things. It is of course in the pile of things I'm enjoying but isn't in a hurry. So, and it lives in one of my absolute favorite project bags by my friend Ingvild, who has the Strikketerapi podcast in Norway along with amazing Kristin. And Ingvild makes just beautiful project bags. This one is me in a nutshell, and it really matches the project, and again following the theme of putting projects that I have a lot of mojo for into bags that I really do want to just use. So this is one of my latest cast-ons that I'm not sure I showed you in the last episode. I did. It's the Ducot sweater by Kate Davies, because I felt like plain stockinette, and apparently I didn't have enough plain stockinette projects already. So not much has happened to this since last time you saw it. Still knitting on both the neckline and the yoke of the raglan at the same time, because I'm just weird like that. I like tangling yarns apparently. I worked a little bit on the neckline, but I will say this recycled yarn, Just Wool from Lamia of Hobium Yarns, it's a little bit tough to work with. There's not much bounciness, so all the purling is slowing me down a little bit, and I'm wary of potential strain injuries that I don't want to have. So it's not something I'm pushing through, it's just some stockinette. So this was one of the projects that appeared, and I can see why it didn't appear any sooner, because it didn't really fit any of the categories. I suppose I should put it into garments, but you will see why this does not have its own category. First of all, it lives in a project bag sewn by Pinneguri that she gave to me, and it is beautiful and full of owls, and I love owls. And the project is Maja's Mamelucker. Maja is a Swedish designer she just designs the most amazing things. Very much my kind of aesthetic, right up my alley. I love her designs. Her latest Mitten book is fabulous. She also designed a pair of underpants. I knitted a very long rib. It was a nightmare because I don't like rib, and it's done, and I'm more of a stockinette phase now. But the reason I stopped was because I couldn't quite decide if I needed to stockinette a little bit longer before doing basically the crotch, because my belly points outwards and you might need a bit more space. I mean, and I also like things that go high up in my waist. That's just my preference. Plus, actually, this looks nicer when this is all rolled up, so maybe that's not necessary. I don't know, and I don't know what's more flattering either, so it's just in a place of trying to decide. But it's really fun and it's free, and I like it. But it is free because it's really a kind of a one-size-fits-all with some advice for modifications. So if you do want to make your size, then it is flexible due to all the rib on the side and the waist, but you might want to modify just in case. So that's what I have to say about that. And yes, it does live in the pile of things I could finish yesterday if I only got my act together. The project that appeared was of course the shawl I mentioned earlier that I wasn't going to show you, but since it has appeared, and I had made more progress than I remembered, and I want to tell you about it because I am very excited about designing my first shawl. It is kind of supposed to be a replica of this old Faroese Island shawl, a Faroese shawl basically, that my mom's had in the attic for ages, and it's looking rather good. I'm using Verbit yarn, which is the yarn that she's dyed on the Venul base from Hillesvåg that only she uses, and it's amazing and I love it. I look forward to you seeing it. I might knit several versions just to make sure that I have it the way I want it. I feel like this might be slightly tighter gauge than I intended, with a slightly too tight cast on maybe. You may have realized it's bottom up. Do not let that deter you from knitting it, because there aren't really that many stitches. I don't think it was even 300, so it's going to be a quick knit. And the yarn is just scrumptious. I mean, imagine wearing that with Threadnear. And it lives in a beautiful bag that I picked up at Bergen Knitting Festival, which is just so gorgeous. I could not leave it. It's so cute, and it's made by Anna Smuskari. No surprise to all, that's in the pile of things that I kind of should finish soon because it's a deadline, but also kind of in the pile of things that is super urgent, that I'm enjoying. So it's sort of in between. And that's all I have for you. I'm not including my machine knit projects. I might in the future. I do have a boxer going, and I'm knitting on the sweater by Renee Callahan for her crafty class on machine knitting. And I think that's it. Wow, this is going to be a long episode, but thank you so much for watching it. If you watched the whole thing, you're crazy, and I appreciate you so much. And if you didn't, I don't blame you. But anyway, I need to get on with stuff to do today. So yeah, I will see you next time. Bye.